Hello. The screen says you are live. Perhaps it's true, perhaps it's not. You never know. I'm coming to you via my phone in an attempt to be higher quality. So let's see if the algorithms like that better, and maybe even some of the humans will. This is Squirrel coming to you from the Squirrel Squadron. This is our weekly event, free live stream on lots of topics. You know, we should stop saying it's a weekly event, Laura, because we're not doing it weekly as much. But so we tend to do two a month these days, and trying to get a little higher quality and a little more excitement. So thanks for coming. What we're going to be talking about this week, this time, is 2026. And what I see coming in technology from the hundreds of clients I work with, what's working for them, what's failing for them, where are they going, where are they not going, and what am I telling them to do? So very happy to discuss that with all of you. Unfortunately, always this forum is a one-way forum, so it's harder for me to discuss with you when I do Zoom calls. I'll be doing one probably in a couple of weeks where it's more interactive. So please head on down to the Squirrel Squadron and sign up for those. Maybe Laura can do her nifty scroll that she does, and that'll tell you about upcoming events, discussions happening on the forum. So I should even say what the Squirrel Squadron is. It's my community of tech and non-tech people getting together just like this to discuss what's coming, what's happening, what's important to them. So I'll say a little more about upcoming stuff from below there, but let me say this. If you're here watching and interested and having fun, why don't you say hello in the chat, because at least that direction works. I can't come back to you in the normal way, but you can write in the chat and I can see it. So would you put in there, please, what brought you here? What are you really interested in for 2026? What do you see coming? Do you think we're going to be here in 2026? Is AI going to take over the world? We're all going to be making paper clips, enslaved by an all-seeing, all dancing artificial intelligence that's smarter than us? Hint, I don't think so. But I'd be interested to hear what you are thinking about and what's important to you, so I can customize this for you. I can never tell how many of you there are. There are lots of folks who watch this on the recording. So, of course, if you're coming along not live, you know, this is in a time zone that's not as good for you, a time slot that doesn't work, welcome as well to the recording. And a great place to have a discussion and a debate after this is on the forum, and we post all kinds of exciting stuff on there. I've been a little less active there because I've been busy preparing my book for next year on AI, but I'm going to get back in there and do some more, and we have some good examples of the discussions appearing below. I had one I think it was sometime in November. I was discussing all the things that I had learned from trying to drive on the incorrect side of the road in Alabama, for example. So lots of learnings there, lots of things that are very interesting that have great applicability to tech and tech teams and delivery more generally. So what else are we doing? We're running an event in a couple weeks. It's scheduled for next week, but it turns out I have a conflict. A client is flying me into Zurich to save their company direction and get some strategy going. So I'm not going to be doing the one as scheduled next week, but we'll do it soon after. And that's one of my booklets. So I'm cranking out these booklets. I've done one a month for the last couple months, and I just have the daily feedback one here, which is on the elephant carpaccio method. And we have a new one coming on recruitment, and particularly how to recruit tech people, even if you don't write any code yourself. And I get this question all the time. How do you recruit a CTO? How do you recruit a senior engineer? How do you recruit a junior data scientist? How do you do any of that if you're not technical yourself? And of course, if you are, some of the same techniques will apply. So I'll have a booklet on that. We'll be launching it. You get a free copy if you come along and discuss that over Zoom. That'll be just this side of Christmas. Laura is figuring out how to reschedule since I managed to mess all the scheduling up with my client's sudden need in Zurich. Then after in the new year, we're going to have a couple new events coming in January, just programming those and figuring those out. And then I'm live in London. So if you want to meet in person, these are all free, by the way. This is my way of giving back. This is why I run the squadron, is to be able to discuss these things with you. And I never want money for that, because I want you to hire me to be a consultant. That's what I really want you to do. And the more people who know me for my free stuff, the more likely it is that I'll get even more great experience, which I can then share with you guys. It's a great, very nice virtuous cycle. So the live event in London is actually on the topic of the book that I'm writing. And that book is on how to do AI and get tremendous results from artificial intelligence without chatting, because everybody is addicted to the box that OpenAI puts up. It says, ask anything. And that's really addictive. It's really exciting. The best results my clients are getting from AI do not involve typing in that box. And I'm not going to say anything more about that because I want you to come to the event and then I want you to read the book, which I'm going to get commercially published next year. So I'll give you a kind of teaser and a preview and lots of information. It'll help me to develop some of the ideas and make sure that it's relevant to you. So that's in London in early February. As I say, a couple weeks from now, we'll be doing the new booklet on recruitment. And love to see you at any of those. These are all free. Hi, Thomas. It's excellent to see you again. Boy, you are definitely a regular attendee and glad to have you here. What you're thinking for 2026, Thomas? I know you're moving into some new areas. What are those looking like for you? What do you think is going to be the exciting stuff? What are you really keen to move into? Because I know you've got a bit of a transition going. So tell us more about where you think it's going, where you think technology is headed, and see if you and I agree or disagree. Both are very good. All right, Laura, thank you. Laura's our community manager. She makes sure all this stuff works. I just show up and prattle at you for a while and tell you what I see. So Laura, thank you for giving us a good view of what's coming for the squadron. Okay, so I'm going to launch in with some predictions. I'm also going to jump to questions that people have asked me ahead of time, and I'm always happy to discuss those. Please feel free to add more in the chat. Argue with me, tell me where you think I've got the wrong end of the stick in any of these predictions. I'm trying to be as provocative and as annoying as possible. So if I haven't pissed off at least some of you at the end of this, I haven't done my job, because my goal is to make you think of new stuff, whether or not you agree with me. So some folks have sent questions ahead of time, maybe because they're going to be on the recording, watching this later. So I'll do my very best to answer at least some of those. Cool. Well, let me jump in. So I'm not going to start with AI, shockingly enough, because I think while AI is a major, major shift in our industry, as big as bringing in the internet itself about 20, 25 years ago when it became really popular for everybody, that shift was seismic and huge, and so is AI. But there are other things that are happening, and I want to point out some of them to you. At least some of them before I get to the big AI stuff, because there's really exciting things that are happening and not happening in that space. But let me start with some catastrophes, because I think there are two major catastrophes that we'll see sometime in 2026. And they're intensifications of current trends. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are really new. They're quite a different direction that we haven't seen, or it has been latent for a while and then it's going to explode. This is just the same thing we have now, but lots worse. So catastrophic problem number one is ransomware of not just Marks and Spencer, which we had for most of the summer here in Britain. You couldn't buy certain things in a major department store grocery chain called Marks and Spencer because their entire data system was locked up. They haven't actually disclosed, as far as I know, how they got it unransomed. Did they actually pay the money to the bad guys who came along and captured their data and said, send us Bitcoin? Or did they actually kind of work it out and replicate the data and not pay the hostage takers? I really don't know. I'd be interested. Maybe some of you know. I'd love to hear from you. But that's happening over and over and over again. And a lot of it is quiet. It's not disclosed or not made a big deal of. If customer data isn't compromised, they don't have to tell you that their data has been affected. But every time now I see a whole bunch of airplanes flights canceled with no particular explanation, or a major issue with delivery systems or something like that. A delivery service like UPS or some FedEx or something has a problem. One of the things I now suspect is maybe somebody came along, captured all their data by using a fairly unsophisticated attack. These things are not hard to do. And you can actually buy them. There are marketplaces where you can buy the tools for creating this, for doing this kind of hostage taking of people's data. And then somebody sends a crudely worded message that says, give us all your money, or we'll take all your data and publish it, do bad things with it, destroy it, otherwise cripple your business. I predict this is going to happen in much more dangerous situations. So let me just paint a couple terrifying pictures to you. Imagine somebody takes hostage your water company's data. So just right here in my little tiny village in England, right next to the Channel Tunnel, we had a little interruption to our water. It was because a water main burst. But you know what? Before I realized what was actually happening, one suspicion I had was maybe some terrorists have come along and captured a whole lot of data, started to manipulate the system, and they've turned off water for half of England, something like that. I looked it up on the news. It wasn't anything like that. It was a much simpler problem. And there are people busy fixing it, and our water's on and everything's okay. But one of these is going to happen sometime. Here's another really terrifying one. Somebody captures some military equipment. So they come along, use these same techniques. Military's a little bit better, but maybe the military, maybe not in quite such a developed country. So I could imagine somebody coming along to someplace like India or Indonesia, someplace like that, where people are reasonably technically sophisticated, but not quite as developed, don't have quite as much budget as, say, the Americans or the French or the British. And they capture a helicopter. They get control of a helicopter, or heaven forfend, a nuclear weapon or something equally dangerous. And suddenly they're able to threaten to actually attack somewhere, to create a real havoc with one of these tools. And the scary thing is, this is pretty easy to do. And particularly the phishing method, PHISHING, where somebody pretends to be someone they aren't. And this is terrifyingly easy to do with deep fakes and other tools that people now have for pretending to be someone. And they will convince someone to give them passcodes to something that they very, very much shouldn't have. And I think of that as a pretty horrific, terrifying catastrophe, and one we're pretty close to. So I'd love to be wrong about this prediction, starting out on a down note. Sorry about that. But I really think we're going to hit that scenario somewhere around the world sometime in 2026. And my hope is that it'll be relatively mild or easily defeated, and it'll serve as a wake-up call. Very similar type of attack on a different surface. So in that case, you're attacking a human. The human says, oh, I think you're so-and-so, and I will let you in. And you're not that person. But a different type of attack is on the supply chain. So we know about supply chains for material goods. You know, this shirt came from somebody who got some cotton together and some sewing resources together and some thread and some other stuff, and it turned into a shirt from all those different sources. And that forms the supply chain. And of course, each one feeds the next one, making a chain. We have the same in technology. A piece of software comes from lots of different sources and lots of different pieces. It's not all made in-house. There's not somebody who sat down and sheared a sheep and created wool and then made a shirt and so on, or harvested some cotton and made a shirt or a jumper. That's not how it works. And that's not how it works in software either. The pieces come from many different sources, and some of them can be bad. And we've had examples of this. There was one in early March last year, if I remember right, where we were a small distance from a sort of nuclear event where someone was able to poison one of those sources. And had it not been caught by someone who happened to be alert, just happened to be paying attention and picked up, hang on a second, something's wrong with this particular piece of software that I'm inserting into my software. If no one had noticed that, there'd be huge data breaches, huge compromises of systems. And the only reason somebody caught it is that somebody said, I think I'll run that test again. I'm not sure that this is actually how it should be. If somebody hadn't been paying close attention, we'd be in trouble. The equivalent, of course, is the story, and I don't remember the major's name, but it was a mid-level Soviet military leader, and he happened to say to himself, that missile? I think it might just be the sun. And it turned out it was the reflection of the sun, and it was not actually the United States attacking Russia. And we're all here thanks to that person noticing and thinking, I will check. Right now, that's what we're relying on in software when we look at our supply chains. And we have tremendous exposure, tremendous attacks, tremendous negative outcomes that can come from somebody not paying attention and not picking up that these things are compromised, which then lets bad guys in to do some very evil stuff. So we should be watching for that. We saw that with CrowdStrike, for example, where one attack, one problem it wasn't an attack of one bug could cripple millions, literally, of computers and ground lots of flights. And stop hospitals in the middle of operations and other things because somebody didn't think, let me test that again. Let me try that. Let me check if this actually works. And I think that inattention is going to come and bite somebody really, really badly. Again, it could be military, it could be hospitals, it could be some very important piece of infrastructure, could be China during Golden Week, when everybody's traveling, suddenly the trains come to a halt. I don't know where it's going to be, but my prediction is that we're going to get hit by a bug that comes out by accident. Okay, so there's two predictions, maybe not that controversial, but kind of depressing. Let me talk about something more positive. Of course, we all love Bitcoin, right? Everybody thinks Bitcoin's a wonderful invention. Well, we're not always so sure. But Bitcoin, certainly, although it's the butt of some jokes, has found some applications for real users. And I've been a skeptic for a very long time. But I think now we've all been so skeptical, we've kind of weighted the balance too far the other way. And there's at least one area where blockchain and Bitcoin and all the other wonderful cryptocurrency inventions actually has some value, actually is useful for something. And that is something called a stable coin. Some of you may not know what this is, but there's a mechanism by which you can convert Bitcoins, which of course sort of float on their own kind of ethereal market. They're not attached to a Federal Reserve or a New York Stock Exchange or anything like that. You can kind of trade them wherever you want. That's one of their advantages. But it's also a disadvantage because if you have a bunch of Bitcoin, all you have is a bunch of Bitcoin. What do you do then? You want to turn it into usual dollars and cents and pounds and pence and so on. And that's where stable coins come in. They're Bitcoins, they're types of coins that run on a blockchain, and they are connected to real dollars. And they are pegged is the term. It just means that a certain amount of this type of coin is equivalent to this amount of money, and it stays that way. So that you can't speculate in them because they're designed not to change. And that's why they're called stable. The weird thing about stable coins is the major stable coins are not all that stable. They're backed by these shadowy companies that nobody quite understands. And although you might be busy trading on all these wonderful currencies and making lots of money and working out which ones are going to do better and worse and adding a lot of liquidity, might be a very valuable thing to do. How do you get dollars out of it if, for example, Tether, which is the biggest stable coin, stops trading or becomes really unstable? And we've seen wobbles like this in the Bitcoin markets and makes people very nervous, and it should. So my prediction is that we're going to actually get some stable coins that people stand behind. We're going to get some laws about them. And I think that will really make the Bitcoin market really function and give us some actual value. It's going to be a lot less value than we thought it might be when there was a lot of cryptocurrency. So I think we're going to get cured of that, but also get some greater legislation that make those stable coins actually work. Okay, so I've got some questions here, so I'm going to deal with those. Let's see. Thomas is looking for AI tools to become mainstream, get more of his data, and have better memory so they remember more about what he wants. Certainly memory is there in ChatGPT now and many others. It's not quite consumer ready. There are things that are imperfect about it. So Thomas is looking for an AI future. And he's interested in what kind of hardware people are going to use. Is there going to be an OpenAI device? So instead of having to try to open an app on your phone, you actually have an OpenAI service. That is certainly coming. They're already moving into a browser. The phone has to be next. So no surprise there, Thomas. Good questions. I know there are some more on the forum. I will get to those in a few moments, but please keep asking questions. Please keep debating with me. I'd love for lots of you to disagree with me. That's always good. Okay. I have to talk about AI sometime. I've been holding off as long as I can, but I have to say something about my opinions because I've got so many clients who are trying out AI, who are having problems with doing that. That's why I'm writing the book, is to give people some new approaches. So what do I think is going to happen there? I've got a couple of my predictions here on my quick little cheat sheet. The first is that I'm going to give you another downer. People are talking a lot about something called agentic AI. I think most people have no clue what they mean when they use those words, when they come out of their own mouths. But if you really try to chase down what agentic AI might possibly mean, people talk about an artificial intelligence, a large language model that's sort of released into the wild. So you have ChatGPT and it's kind of trapped. It's trapped on your screen. It's trapped in a little box. You have to type stuff in and you get stuff out. And the notion of an agent is that it actually talks to you, or it talks to instructions that you've given it, and it tries to follow them. and it actually goes out in the world and does stuff, and it buys you an airplane flight. As I was saying earlier, I need a flight to Zurich now that my client has called me in and paid me very handsomely to show up and help their company. So it could be that the agent does research for you, finds information that you didn't have previously, does some translation for you, may do all of those things. And the vision is that we all have lots of little AI agents, and they're just kind of buzzing around our heads in a little cloud, and they do stuff maybe even before we ask for it. And so if we typically read the New York Times every morning, the agent will go off and get the New York Times for us, summarize the articles that are of most interest, and present it right in front of us while we're still sipping our morning coffee. That's the sort of theory. The problem is the theory is a long way from reality. The theory is nice to describe. There are books all about how you can use agents this way, and clever discussion of exactly what the architecture is. I'm here to tell you nobody knows how this stuff works, and no one is using it in production yet. No one has really worked out how the agents can interact with each other. There's a goofy thing called MDC. I think I have the right acronym. I'm not actually sure what it stands for, but it's a way for models, that is large language models, AI bots, to access the outside world and turn your lights on and off, or do some research for you and find you the latest magazine articles that'll be most interest to you on the airplane or whatever it might be. So there are lots of these theories about how these things might connect to each other. You might have noticed that your phone doesn't connect very well to your computer all the time. I was having trouble transferring some files for my wife for her art history work. You might have noticed that your CRM, your method of tracking customers in whatever business you run, doesn't always hook up very nicely with your accounting system. And so you might want to send an invoice, but you get it sent twice or not at all because the two systems don't talk the same language, don't interact well. That's about 1,000 times worse when you start getting machines in the picture. And not only do you perhaps get duplicate rows on your balance statement from your accounting system, but actually you get duplicate payments going out to your customers, or you get duplicate tax filings because you're trying to interact with the tax system, and your AI didn't understand that pushing the button twice was a bad idea. There's lots of these kinds of dangers in the agentic world, and I'm advising great caution. To measure once, cut twice, test multiple times, not just twice. There's lots of danger here, so watch out. Take the agentic revolution with a huge grain of salt. I'm not expecting that we'll be commanding armies of AIs to go off and do stuff, sort of like a flock of birds automatically coordinating and getting something done. That's not coming anytime soon, folks. We can barely get one to do what we want. Let's try starting there. What else do I have on AI? So one place that AI is really making a huge difference is I'm seeing it in every single one of my clients, that all the engineers have an exoskeleton. They all have a little extra piece, and an exoskeleton works by putting some metal around your arm, kind of like Iron Man, but in the small. And you can bend your arm, and there's a servo motor that assists you. And so instead of just pulling your arm out like this, you can lift a car, or you can you lift a huge barbell by moving your arm like this, augmented by the motor. So engineers, software engineers, now have that kind of servo motor, that kind of exoskeleton available to them in the form of Claude Code and Codex and all the other beautiful tools. There's not a lot of difference among them. Experts know which works best for which case, but it almost doesn't matter. If your engineers are not using these tools, they are behind. It's as if everyone else had cars and your folks are still getting on bicycles. Get your technology team using these tools. If they're resistant to it, if they're scared of it, first of all, you could hire me and I can come help them, or you could just fire them and get people who will. Because the market's a little bit softer now, and the ones who are able to use these tools are much more productive. They're getting a huge amount more done when they use them correctly. The idea that somehow, again, this is the agentic thing again, you're going to push a button and go lie on the beach and come back and your application will be coded, ain't happening, not happening anytime soon. But what does happen is you can get what I call a software atelier. That's a kind of school, a group of AIs all working together, all cooperating in a very simple way. So not this kind of thing where they're all off in the world trying to connect to different tools and buy you airplane tickets, but they're cooperating with each other according to a tightly defined plan. And you have a conductor, you have an orchestrator, a person who's very senior, who's very knowledgeable, who can give out the assignments, check what the AIs are doing, and correct them and help them to be productive. That person can be 4 or 5 or 10 times more productive than he or she otherwise would be. And you can really replace some of your staff, some of your engineering investment with investment in these tools, which of course work 24 hours a day and never need holiday and so on. So there's some real advantages to this type of mechanical slave labor, right? Whenever you can industrialize, you get a huge boost in productivity, but you have to do it very carefully. You know, the first trains were not navigated by ordinary humans. We didn't get that until we got independent automobiles and so on in like the 1910s. But the first motorized transport was piloted by very experienced people who understood exactly how it was all put together and could figure out how to make sure that the train, even though it only went in one or two directions, actually kept going and it had the right kind of coal, that it was adjusted correctly, and the steam engine worked as it should. Those were experts. That's where we are. We're at the steam engine stage. We're at the very first railroads, and that means you need real experts to build your AI and to use the AI tools inside your technology team in an effective way. So lots more I've written on this on the Software Atelier. You can look that up or ask me about it. But vital that you get those senior engineers. We then have a problem. Where do we get new junior engineers? You know, how do juniors become seniors? Because we haven't got any place for them to learn. The AIs are all doing it. So there's an industry problem there, which I predict we will not solve because it's very, very difficult. It's going to take us generations to get that one right, I suspect. All right, let me come to a few others. I'm going to keep trying to provoke you. Stop me with questions. Stop me with arguments. I'm going to jump to some of the listeners' questions in a minute or two, but let me do a couple more predictions. So solar energy is becoming a whole lot cheaper. I've got a client who's really involved in one aspect of wind energy and also solar. And that's becoming more and more dominant. Mr. Trump in the United States isn't a big fan. That's okay. The rest of the world is certainly catching up and finding some cheap and effective sources of energy, which we really need for running all the data centers that are going to run our AIs, but more seriously, also for running our transportation infrastructure. And you know, my car is charging right now, and I don't actually put any petrol in it, but I'm certainly very dependent on sources of energy. And the more we can get those, and the more they're efficient, the better. Solar energy is becoming a whole lot cheaper per square centimeter, and therefore per kilowatt hour. And that's making a huge difference. So we should also look for hydrogen cars sometime soon. They're becoming quite practical, and I wouldn't be surprised if my next car, well, maybe next car, but one, it might be running on hydrogen rather than electrons. Who knows? But there's a lot of movement in those areas. Alternative sources of energy are becoming much more cost efficient. And so it's less experimental. We need fewer government supports. And I think the Americans are going to fall behind, by the way, because you happen to have a president who is headed another direction. I think he's fighting against history. That's just my opinion. All of this is my opinion. You're welcome to disagree with me. But Americans, I think you ought to consider alternative energies. The rest of the world is going to beat you to them. That doesn't seem like a good direction for you. And let's talk about another American, one I seem to bring up quite a lot. I'm not quite sure why he comes up so often, but there's a chap called Jimmy Donaldson, who is much better known as Mr. Beast. And he's kind of taken over the world. He's a multi-billionaire, comes from no particular background in media and entertainment, but is one of the most watched human beings on the planet. Can't go out of his home without being swarmed by people expecting him to give them money, which is sort of his big claim to fame, as he runs these Squid Game-like events where somebody wins a huge amount of money, and they're very entertaining. They are very popular on YouTube. It's really the personification. He's the god, the poster child for Andy Warhol's "In the future we will all be famous for 15 minutes." He's got a little more than 15 minutes, but he's come out of the holy poly. He's just come from somebody who's maniacally interested in creation of content, and creation of content is a very lucrative business when you can get it right. And of course, you get very few Mr. Beasts and an awful lot of people who are like me. You know, I haven't got that many subscribers, and I don't care that much. And I like talking to you guys and getting great questions, like I have from Thomas and others who have put information on the forum. But I'm not trying to be Mr. Beast, right? I'm not attempting to get there. But what we do see is a lot of democratization of media in general, and we have a lot more independent games and people building Roblox services and games and toys and so on. There are millions and millions of kids who are participating in these online communities, and this is becoming more and more prevalent. So the beastification of the media landscape is something that I certainly expect will happen more. We'll get more and more investment into these big creators, these folks who are really actors but have been self-trained and aren't gated by a producer or a media company or an Apple TV or a Paramount. They arise from the algorithm. It's not a fair system, and it doesn't mean everybody gets 15 minutes, but I think it's a very interesting trend, and we'll get much more of it. Mr. Beast is certainly doing very well, and I predict there will be more Mr. Beasts on the horizon. Okay, let me turn to some of your questions. There were some really great ones that I saw when I zipped by the topic on the forum. So let me find those again. Those would be right here. And let's see what we can do. So we've got Patrick. I didn't do any of these in detail. I did not prepare anything. I just looked to see that they were here and they were interesting, and that's for sure. Patrick asks, will legislation like DORA, I didn't know DORA was legislation. Maybe I'm confused by that one. NIS2 or the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill change how CTOs and other tech leaders think about cybersecurity software? DORA, maybe I need to look that one up. I know the DORA metrics, which are for measuring how your tech team is doing. Patrick, when you watch this, I think you're not here with us right now. If you are, please tell me now. But Patrick, would you mind just filling us in on what DORA is? Because I think maybe I know and I've forgotten, but I think that's not one that I know about. At any rate, are people going to think about cybersecurity software because somebody passed a law? They're going to think differently because somebody passed a law? Absolutely not. People are going to remain just as clueless about phishing. I'm warning all my clients all the time. You don't know whether that's the CEO who's on the phone with you. The voice can be faked. The face can be faked. The request can be faked. So it looks like a really legitimate purchase order, something like that. And it says, send this amount of money to this person. Do it quickly. Because there's an urgency to getting this bill paid. We're overdue. We can get a discount, and it sounds totally convincing. And I don't think anybody's thinking carefully about that stuff. They're trying hard, but it's an incredibly difficult problem to authenticate human beings that they are actually who they say they are. And there are lots of things that we do to try to remove holes and gaps and problems, and that's what a lot of these pieces of legislation and standards and certificates try to enforce, and that's good. Let's plug as many holes as we can, but I think some of the holes are really in humans and how humans treat their software, which is far too trustingly. We believe it because it looks good and it seems believable. And gee, that FBI badge sure has all the right shiny stars on it. But unfortunately, much more of that stuff can be faked, and especially it's incredibly easy online. And we've not developed the habit in the humans of looking for, say, the holographic image that gives greater security. What's the last, when you looked at a $20 bill or a 20-pound note recently, those all have holographic security stamps on them, right? So they shine in the light and so on. When's the last one you checked carefully? I predict you didn't do that very much. I certainly didn't the last time I picked up a 10-pound note, and I doubt you did either. And that's because we're not in the habit of looking for that kind of thing. Just a very funny story. When Lisa and I were traveling very early in our lives together, we came into London bleary-eyed off a bus, having traveled a long way. And I pulled out a few pound coins, and I meant to pay for my next ticket. I think we were getting on the tube or something. And the person counting the change dropped one of the coins, and you just dropped it on the table and made a thunk. Instead of making a really clear metallic sound, it sort of went thunk, like it was made of stone. And he said, "Bad coin." get another pound out. And I'd been scammed, of course, because I didn't know what to check for and what made a coin a duff coin that wasn't actually valuable. But the other person did, and he was checking the coins carefully. So that was a lesson to me in actually paying attention to what I'm using, what the material is that's in front of me, and not just thinking of it as abstract objects. Okay, so what other questions did we get? Great question from Patrick. Do fill me in on Dora, because I'm not sure I know it. Maybe I do and I've forgotten. I've forgotten many such things. Let me switch back over to questions. Yes, wonderful to see you last week. Yes, sorry we were delayed and didn't get as long for lunch, but I'm sure we'll do that again soon. Yes says 60% of S&P companies mention AI on their earnings calls. How many of them actually understand what AI represents in actual implementation? Almost none. Yaz, you know this because I've told you, but I'll tell everybody. I was at a conference, which is where I met Yaz, of operators of big hedge funds, with loads and loads and loads of money. These are folks with substantial IT teams, really know what they're doing. They're at the cutting edge of the market. And I started talking to them about artificial intelligence. And I very quickly noticed that they had a fundamental misunderstanding of what these tools were for and how they actually worked, because they thought that what you were going to do was type into a box. The AI loves, the ChatGPT, OpenAI loves to give you that box and say, type anything. And they thought that was it. That's how you use it. You type some stuff in here, you get a letter back, you get a compliance document, you get something else. That's how you do it. You type a prompt and then you get something back. That is not how people are using AI the most effectively. There's a whole host of different methods. The book I'm writing will contain a lot of them. But there's so much you can do without chatting. You can do computer vision. You can do research. You can build software applications that do not involve chatting, that involve deterministically producing a result and giving you information, anticipating your needs. There's so much that you can do with these tools that does not involve chatting. And that's what so many technical leaders and operational leaders and others just don't get. So that's why I'm writing the book. I did not pay Yaz to ask that question, but I'm very grateful. My publisher, when I get that all set up, will be very grateful. But more seriously, I think there's huge misunderstanding. And although it's a nice buzzword and lots of folks are putting it in their earnings calls, I don't have any faith from all the investigations I do, tens and dozens every year, investigations of companies, many of which have AI in their name or their URL. It's squirrel.ai instead of squirrel.com. Not believable. There's a lot that's smoke and mirrors and buzzword bingo. I hate to tell you that. I'm hoping that the AI correction that everyone is correctly predicting for next year, that shakes out some of these folks who are really charlatans, who are really calling something AI that involves nothing more than a few computers. Okay, so there's my rant over for Yaz, and excellent question from him. Let me just do one more of your questions, then I'm going to come to a couple more predictions. Let's see, we have Susie. It was wonderful to meet Susie a couple weeks ago, so nice to see you here. She asks, what are the biggest tech-related risks companies should prepare for in 2026? Well, I've mentioned a couple of them, but I have at least one more for you, Susie. I mentioned catastrophic data breaches, where people are going to hack in to something that's really dangerous. So far, it's mostly been ransom for grocery stores, stuff like that. We're going to have ransom for much bigger, much more valuable, scary assets, and the same for bugs. CrowdStrike really hit us hard. It was hitting a small piece of the software supply chain. It was hitting computers used in many, many places, but doing a relatively simple job. Imagine, just for another terrifying thought, what if somebody actually targeted, there's a bug that was specifically for the Sabre system, which is used for making airplane reservations. Imagine that was down, and down in a really bad way, the way CrowdStrike was, where you had to go around and physically restart the machines. Those kinds of systems, they're really hardened. People work very hard to make sure they keep working. MasterCard or Visa would be another example of such a thing. But those kinds of fundamental infrastructure, I think, are very vulnerable to this type of bug. People work very hard to remove them. I salute the folks who do it, but it's a tremendously difficult game. And the business drivers are to make the systems more complex. And the more complex you make the system, the less robust it is. So I think we're really going to get hit. So Susie, those are two places I already mentioned, but I also want to mention something that's really a huge trend. And I think anybody who hasn't read some of the work of John Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, I think I've got that right, really should. because what we're seeing in Australia right now is kids suddenly not having phones and really just not even having them. Or being confiscated in school. You have video and examples of kids putting their phones in bags and making sure that they actually don't have them, because they're such a huge distraction. And they're actually damaging to children in lots of ways. The studies are really coming out that, much like smoking or drinking or other things that we know are harmful for young people, phones are very bad for their mental health. They're distracting from more healthy pursuits, and there's a weight of evidence that I think will become much more visible. And Susie, I don't know if this affects your current business, which I don't remember what it is, but sorry, Susie, I don't remember quite what your context is, but I think you're going to see more and more instances where if your company is reliant on selling to kids, you're not going to be selling on phones. You're going to need to find another way to reach kids and sell them amazing toys and so on. Very good business if you can get into it. Ain't going to do it on a phone because the kids aren't going to have one. And if your business does not touch kids quite so much, then you might be interested for your own family. Should your kids be out there playing in the field, or should they be on the phone playing games with their friends? There's some arguments both sides, but the evidence is coming down pretty hard that at least in the early years, kids should have no phones at all. Not a big sell for the kids, right? They're not happy about that. But if you ask them, they'd probably also be happy to drink alcohol and smoke weed, and we don't let them do that. So I think taking away phones from kids is going to be more and more prevalent, and Haight's research has been very helpful in that direction. Okay, let me add one more. So I've got through, I think, 9 or 10 predictions. I didn't count, but this is what I came up with quickly just from my own experience. I didn't carefully analyze this for weeks and weeks. I just told you, hey, this is what I'm seeing in my clients right now today. And the last one I want to tell you about is non-human robots. So the thing that kind of gets people's attention, and Elon Musk is wonderful at getting people's attention. He had a party where there were robots that moved around and carried the drinks and talked to people and so on. Mr. Beast, I mentioned him before. He was having a race with various track stars and humanoid robots that would run down the track. So these are kind of attention-getting, exciting sorts of things, because we like human shapes. We like things that kind of look human. If you saw a movie called Passengers, you saw a bartender who was human. It's actually, of course, an actor who was just pretending to be a robot, and this was a very realistic humanoid robot that was very interesting to the people who were passengers on this spaceship. So we're interested in the humanoid form. Robots are much, much, much more effective when you don't try to make them like humans, because they haven't evolved over millions of years. They are not evolved to handle, we all have tails, but they're nascent, they aren't actually out. But you have bones that should be in your tail as a previous monkey, right? Because we're all in the primate family. And all that kind of stuff is not present and does not hold back a robot from being much more effective at whatever it does that's not human. So although we'll still see these sort of publicity stunts where it's really just a human moving around and it has a kind of mechanical robot look to it, we're going to see much more actual benefit to real people from robots that are not at all human, that perform very differently. And we already have that. So I'm describing here a continuation of a trend much more than a new prediction. But I think paying attention to nifty looking robots is not the way to go. We want to see where there's profit and results. And I have a client, for example, whose robots are completely, they don't have arms or legs or movement or anything. They move stuff around by moving it on a platform, and they move it inside a factory. So you're trying to get things to go from point A in the factory to point B so that they can be painted or some adjustment made to them. Then they go to point C, and this tool moves them around. This one doesn't work like those you've seen, but if you've seen video of dark stores where these grocery outlets have lots of food and other items stored, and then it's kind of popped out. Amazon has the same thing, and these robots will move around on conveyor belts, these boxes. My client does a slightly different thing, but the same kind of idea. These are robots. In fact, the entire dark store is a robot, right? All you could imagine is just one giant robot with many, many arms and legs that aren't shaped like our arms and legs that move around these boxes. and we're going to get more and more of those, and that's the place to invest. Trying to get, there's a whole industry in trying to get to win the robot Olympics, which involves like running and kicking, and the biggest one is the robot football match, football like we call it, soccer for Americans. And robots are remarkably bad at that. We have not figured out how to get them to walk, to collaborate, to kick the ball in the right direction. Ain't coming anytime soon. So don't hold your breath for the robot Olympics. Okay, let me answer a few questions, and then I'm going to come to the end here. Very much appreciate being able to chat to you guys. Please ask more questions in the chat. I would love to look at more of your predictions and more of your ideas. I think we got one more good question here in the list. Adam, old friend of the squadron, of course, asks, Atlassian just bought DX, Developer Experience Platform, for $1 billion. What are your thoughts on this? So I was not aware of that. So let's fill people in on what these things are. So Atlassian, of course, is a very standard business tool. Many of you will know it and hate it as Jira, because I think that was their original tool. They also bought. I mean to say Trello and some other tools, which they then brought together in the Atlassian suite. I think they bought or brought in Bitbucket and some others, that they provide a lot of different mechanisms for running your software organization, or increasingly other types of organization, with material and information on what ticket is being done by whom, what customer service request came in. Let's make it traceable so we can figure out how many requests an hour Squirrel is handling and fire him when he doesn't do enough, which is probably what would happen. So there are all kinds of tools for managing this type of activity. So DX, I don't know as well. I think that's a familiar, certainly a familiar term. I don't know that I know the company as well, although I have heard of it. But what Adam is telling us is that this sort of tools company, project management tools mainly is what they have, has bought a developer experience company. And my conclusion from that, and Adam, you may know a lot more about it, please post on the forum. I'd like to hear your thoughts and others. But what immediately strikes me there is that that's the natural lateralization of a product. That you build a product that's a point solution. It works in one place. It fits into one part of your customer's needs. And in fact, that's almost always not enough. And I have a client I was mentioning, I was headed out to Zurich to help them. And one of their problems is that their product is kind of a useful thing. It's kind of nice to have, but it's hard to attribute, hard to figure out how it's actually helping people. And it's often part of a number of different pieces, all of which help. And the problem with being one of many anonymous helpers is you're an anonymous helper. And so you're easy to get cut when the budget is under threat, or when something else exciting comes along, or somebody just wants to hire their friend. And whatever is happening that shrinks the budget, you say to yourself, well, I have 5 of these things. They're all supposed to be helpful. 4 will be slightly less helpful, maybe 80% of the full 5. That's okay. Goodbye, my client, because they tend to be the more expensive one. And so they get their heads are first on the chopping block. Completely unfair, not accurate. They're providing tremendous value, but they're not figuring out how to show it. And so I think the thing that Atlassian must be trying to do is to show that they are stickier, that they are a bigger part of making people productive. I think the problem they're going to have is the same as my client. So they should hire me, by the way. So if you're from Atlassian, phone me. The Squirrel phone's working. I'd love to work with you. I know you're in Australia. I wake up early. Don't worry. But the problem they're going to have is attributing. So how do you know that your developer experience has actually made the company more productive? And how do you make sure that you're not the first one cut? I think that'll be very interesting. Adam, you clearly know more about this than me, so I'd love to see some posts from you on the forum about this. It'd be a very good discussion. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I hope I've given you enough of an insight. We had a few good questions, both from the recording audience and the live audience, so thank you for being here. And I'd love for you to argue with me about any of these. I'm going to ask Laura to give us a quick summary on the forum, so you can see these predictions all together. Oh, I didn't go back to my predictions from before. Laura, did you share those with me? Let me just see if it's... Yeah, because I wanted to look back at last year. I'll do that real quick here at the end. I hadn't remembered I wanted to do that. But let me see if I can find that, because I think Laura sent it to me. Did we find the predictions from before? I'm asking Laura to give me a quick signal here if she did, but then now she's off my screen. Sorry, go back. Minor difficulties. No, that's the wrong one. I got to be here. No, that's not it either. There it is. So Laura, did we find them? Can you give me a thumbs up or a down? No, didn't find them. Okay, so we'll do that another time. I know I made some predictions last year, and I'm curious how I did on them. When I've looked before, I haven't necessarily been 100%. I'm not Cassandra. I'm not a magician with a crystal ball, but I sure would like to see how I did. We'll compare that on the forum and let you know. Maybe I'll ask Laura to help me put that on, and we'll send that out to you guys afterwards. Thanks for being here. This will be recorded. Of course, you can watch it anytime, share it with your friends. I'd be happy for you to do that. Please sign up on the Squadron if you haven't already. Then you can get my weekly emails. You can get onto the forum to have these discussions we've been talking about and come back for more events. Certainly would like to see you talking with me about recruitment of technical people, even if you're not technical. That's what's coming up very soon. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Lovely to have you with me, and hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.